Sarang eh.
Round one, fight!
Team Buggy, are you ready?
Yes, we are!
How about Team Green? Are you ready?
Yes, we are! Let's go!
Yeah, I like the energy. So before we will start, let's try your buzzer. Team Buggy?
Ticket!
How about Team Glenn?
Sir Glenn!
Okay, so I will repeat the question twice. So first, it is provide sufficient cash in the right place at the right to ensure a company that they will be able to meet all its obligation. Again, it's provide sufficient cash in the right place at the right to ensure a company that they will be able to meet all its obligation.
A. Cash concentration. B. Treasury management. A. Cash concentration. B. Treasury management. Go!
Okay, Sir Glenn.
Treasury management.
That's correct.
Okay.
Good afternoon. So this is Jen Rose Baldedomar. So I will going to discuss to you the definition of treasury management. In simple words, it's a management system that optimizes your business liquidity while also mitigating financial, operational, and reputational risk. To tell us more about the treasury management is the term treasury used for centuries, with the first noted of the word from the term treasury, which means room for treasure. When we talk about the treasures of a company, we are referring to cash, assets, and investments. It is critical component of a company's business strategy. Simply described, treasury management means providing sufficient cash in the right place at the right to ensure a company that they will be able to meet all of its obligations. Treasury management systems involve the creation and governance of various procedures and policies designed to help companies better management their cash flow and all the aspects that go with it, such as payable, receivable, interest rate, and foreign exchange rates.
For the second question, what are the challenges that the Treasury Department face? Again, what are the challenges that the Treasury Department face?
A. Asset and liabilities. B. Match maturities. C. Cash flows. And D. All of the above. Again, A. Asset and liabilities. B. Match maturities. C. Cash flows. And D. All of the above. Go!
Ticket!
Okay, Team Poggy.
C. Cash flows.
And how about you, Team Glenn?
Sir Glenn! Letter D, all of the above.
That is correct.
Yes.
Let's go! Oh, Sir Glenn, let's go!
So these are the challenges faced by the Treasury Department. The first one is the match maturities. That means that the investment made by companies with maturity matching their operational maturity for their accounts payables. These do not include only matching of investment maturity to accounts payable, but also matching for accounts payable to accounts receivable for funding. The second one is assets, or what we call investments. Treasury understands the working of money and markets from both tactical and strategic standpoint. The treasurer should know where, what, and how to handle the right assets of the company. Liabilities or borrowings. A challenge in gathering sources of funds, at least minimum interest rates and charges. The last one is cash flows or availability of the firm across locations, each of which has different regulatory and market environments, optimizing the use of these resources and ensuring availability to support the business. So that is the 4 challenges faced by the Treasury Department. Take note of it. Match maturities, assets or investment, liabilities or borrowings, and cash flows or availability.
Okay. Number 3. It is one of the role of TD in a corporation that the treasurer meets with a representative of any banks that the company uses to discuss the company's financial decision. Again, it is one of the role of TD in a corporation that the treasurer meets with a representative of any bank that the company uses to discuss the company's financial decision.
A. Credit granting. B. Bank relation. Again, A. Credit granting. B. Bank relation. Go!
Ticket!
Team Pogi.
Credit. Hey.
And how about you?
Sir Glenn, bank relation.
That's correct. So, Team Pogi, you need to bounce back.
So let's proceed for the topic about the bank relation. It is actually one of the role of the Treasury Department in a corporation that the treasurer meets with the representatives of any bank that the company uses to discuss the company's financial decision. Bank relation is a long-term and open relationship, can lead to some degree of bank cooperation if the company is having financial difficulties. Moreover, bank relationship management provides processes and technology that help a company track and manage all their bank relationships by providing a single view of all accounts and activities with the bank worldwide. This includes bank accounts, insurance, lines of credit, and foreign exchange.
Come on, Bob!
Next question. This is one of the most laborious tasks of the treasurer in achieving and maintaining. Again, this is one of the most laborious tasks of the treasurer in achieving and maintaining.
A. It's in term of bank relationship. B. It's in term of financial relationship. Again, A. It's in term of bank relationship. B. Or it's in term of financial relationship.
Go!
Ticket!
Team Pogi.
B. Financial. Relationship.
Team Glenn!
Sir Glenn! Our answer is A.
What is A?
A, as in apple.
That's correct. Okay, it's a terms of bank relationship. So, Team Glenn, you don't have any score.
Sir Glenn,
So,
Next
let's go.
question. Okay.
Brain cells, Sir Glenn.
It is assessing the need to decide upon the number of banks needed by the company. Again, it is assessing the need to decide upon the number of banks needed by the company.
A. Bank centralization. B. Banker dialogue. C. Bank fees. D. Loan covenants. And E. All of the above. Again, bank centralization. B. Bank dialogue. C. Bank fees. D. Loan covenants. E. All of the above.
Go!
Hey, Sir Glenn!
Third Glenn.
Bank, A. Bank fees. Bank fees.
1, 2, 3, go! Time Bobby. That's correct.
Relationship of bank relations. It is one of the most laborious tasks of the treasurer in achieving and maintaining them in terms of bank relationship. Assessing the need to decide upon the number of bank needed by the company. The bank centralization, that means a systematic process where the treasurer has to target a reduction in the number of banks the company maintains. The second one is the banker dialogue, to develop and build relations with the bank representatives, which may make for years. The third is the bank fees. It is a development of a relationship with the bank that may squeeze the fees to a minimum level. Lastly is the loan covenants, the best opportunity for avoiding loan covenants that may cause a breach on the loan that may cause an increase in fees. Bank relations may give a waiver for the covenant violations to maintain a profitable long-term relationship with the company. So that would be all. Thank you so much.
Okay, so 5/1. The winner is the team Glenn.
Sir Glenn, the winner.
Round 2. Fight!
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our game show. Our next round, we have a new contestant, Team SB. Are you ready?
Yes, we are!
Team Pogi, are you ready?
Yes, we are!
Alright, let's start this game show with question number 1.
It is a corporate treasury management technique involving the transfer of all funds from different accounts to a single centralized account to increase cash management, efficiency, and reduce fees. I will repeat the question. It is a corporate treasury management technique involving the transfer of all funds from different accounts to a single centralized account to increase cash management, efficiency, and reduce fees. A. Bank relation. B. Cash forecasting. C. Clearing and settlement system. D. Cash concentration. Go.
Okay, Team SB.
D. Cash concentration.
Your answer is correct.
Cash concentration is an excellent solution for companies that maintain a huge number of bank accounts and have numerous subsidiaries, particularly those with transactions in several countries. From the perspective of cash management, the arrangement is inefficient because the treasury staff must keep track of each specific account's balance, and it is complicated to repurpose the funds for investment, debt reduction, or centralized payments.
Okay, moving on to the second question. Gamers, are you ready?
Yes, we are!
Alright, let's start.
These are the benefits of cash concentration, which make payments or investment as needed with readily available funds. A. Centralized payment, elimination of idle cash, review excluded accounts, internal funding of debit balances. B. Elimination of idle cash, improved investment returns, more cost-effective oversight of accounts, internal funding of debit balances. I'll repeat the question. These are the benefits of cash concentration, which make payments or investment as needed with readily available funds. A. Centralized payments, elimination of idle cash, review excluded accounts, and internal funding of debit balances. B. Elimination of idle cash, improved investment returns, more cost-effective oversight of accounts, and internal funding of debit balances.
B. A. Centralized. A.
Your answer is wrong.
C.
C?
C.
C, are you sure about your answer, sir?
Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. Beep,
Tagana chance, tagana chance.
beep.
Ha? Wala? Letter B. Final answer, letter B.
Your answer is correct.
Yes!
Okay.
Elimination of idle cash. Basically, the cash is not being employed in a form that would raise a company's value. It indicates that cash has no profit in the way of purchasing investment or assets. Improve investment returns. If a company can be pooled, it will be simpler to divide it between short-term investment and longer-term investment. So, the overall outcome must be an efficient return of investment. More cost-effective oversight of accounts. It is not necessary to manually check subsidiary bank account balances when using an automatic sweeps mechanism to have a concentration on cash. Thus, labor costs may be significantly reduced. Internal funding of debit balances. When a company is dealing with an issue of debit balances that is ongoing across numerous accounts, the prevention of expensive bank overdraft fees alone might be a significant motivation to employ cash concentration.
Okay, moving on. Oh, may silong sa kanino. Okay, moving on to the third question. Number 3. It is a cash concentration strategy that Treasury staff pulls cash into a concentration account, invests it, and manages disbursement. So there are 5 choices, so you have 2 chances each. Letter A, all functions centralized. Letter B, complete decentralization. Letter C, centralized liquidity management. Letter D, centralized payments, decentralized liquidity management. And letter E, decentralized payment. Okay. What was the first one?
Kami.
Okay, Team SB.
Hey.
Team SB, I'm sorry, but your answer is correct. There are 4 strategies of cash concentration. The first one is complete decentralization. Every branch office or subsidiary with its own bank account manages its own cash position. Well, decentralization is the process of shifting control from one main group to several smaller ones. Moreover, in this case, in complete decentralization, there is little synergy to be gained by concentrating cash in a single account. Furthermore, the complete decentralization is only possible as long as balances are not significant. Second one, centralized payments with decentralized liquidity management. A firm may put in place a payment factory that takes care of all payables for all the corporate payables for all the corporate subsidiaries, but send payments from local accounts. As a result, the overall planning for cash outflows is improved. In contrary, this does not improve the management of excess cash balances for which local managers are still responsible. The third one is centralized liquidity management, decentralized payments. This is kabaliktaran sa second one. The corporate staff centralizes cash into a concentration account and has responsibility for investments. Local managers, on the other hand, are still responsible for disbursements. And the fourth one, all functions are centralized. The corporate staff pulls all cash into a concentration account, invests it, and manage disbursement. This structure fit well for the investment income optimization and also gives the corporate line of reporting increased control over the accounts payable part of the firm's working capital. Especially larger companies follow this strategy. So, how many points are we in already? 2 to 1. 2 to 1. Okay, Team Pogi, habol tayo. Okay. Question number 4. Yes. Should maintain your dignity as Pogi. Okay. Question number 4. It is one of the 3 forms of pooling in global. It is one of the 2 forms of pooling in global concentration of funds, wherein the funds are physically transferred into the master account and foreign exchange transactions are necessary. Letter A, account sweeping. Letter B, notional pooling. Okay, repeating the choices. Letter A, account sweeping. Letter B, notional pooling. Um, well, they were the first one to be the. Oh wow, our buzzer is detachable. What an amazing discovery. So Team Pogi. Team Pogi. Okay. Congratulations, your answer is wrong. Okay, you have a chance. Team SD.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yes.
A, cash sweeping.
Cash sweeping is wrong.
Cash sweeping.
No.
It's
Your answer is wrong.
account sweeping.
Cash sweeping.
Okay, the answer is correct. Okay. Habol tayo. Ano nangyari, Team Pogi? So, which one of the two is better? And the answer to that is notional pooling is usually the better alternative. It is because under national pooling, cash does not physically leave the bank accounts of each subsidiary, which greatly reduces the amount of intercompany loans that would otherwise have to be recorded. Moreover, this eliminates the treasurer overhead costs that would otherwise be associated with tracking and recording the intercompany loans. Or second one is that physical when you transfer funds from through physical sweeping, you will need to operate in multiple currencies because account sweep records the use of foreign exchange transaction and possibly hedging. National pooling eliminates these activities since funds are not shifted from one currency into another currency. Moreover, in addition, national pooling is more likely to be supported by managers of local subsidiaries, since it means that they retain control over their cash balances. Team Pogi.
Pogi lang. Pogi lang.
Pogi lang ang boy.
Okay, moving on to easiest question. Number 5. It is one of the layers of bank overlay structure that is comprised of all in-country banks. Letter A, lower layer. Letter B, higher layer. I repeat choices. Letter A, lower layer. Letter B, higher layer. Okay, Team Pogi, what is the answer?
Lower layer.
Congratulations, your answer is correct. Moving on to there are two layers of bank overlay structure. Bank overlay structure allows funds to be consolidated on either a regional or global basis for centralized cash management. The first layer is lower layer. Lower layer is comprised of all in-country banks that are used for cash transaction requirements. The second layer is called higher layer. Higher layer is a group of network regional banks or even a single global bank that maintains a separate bank account for each country or legal entity of the corporate structure. Sixth question. What control refers to an inherent control of a physical sweep system which depends on the circumstances given that it may be necessary to allocate interest earned back in the subsidiaries? There are 5 choices for this question, so again you have 2 chances to answer this question. Letter A, review target balances. Letter B, review excluded accounts. Letter C, compare intercompany loan rates to market rates. Letter D, verify the allocation of interest income to subsidiaries. And letter E, verify the calculation of intercompany loan balances. Again, I will repeat the choices.
Question, please.
Question already. Okay, let me repeat the question because the choices were long. Question number 6. What control refers to an inherent control of a fiscal sweep system which depends on the circumstances given that it may be necessary to allocate interest earned back in the subsidiaries? Letter A. Review target balances. Letter B. Review excluded accounts. Letter C. Compare intercompany loan rates to market rates. Letter D. Verify the allocation of interest income to subsidiaries. Letter E. Verify the calculation of intercompany loan balances.
Hit it!
Okay.
Kami.
Yes.
C.
Your answer is wrong.
Hit it!
Yes.
D.
Your answer is correct.
Let's go. 3 points each.
There are 5 cash concentration controls. The first one is review target balances. If a subsidiary account is allowed a target cash balance, then periodically review account usage to see if the target balance is appropriate. The second one is review excluded accounts. Some subsidiary accounts may have been excluded from the sweep on the grounds that there are local currency restrictions or that minimal transaction activity does not justify a periodic sweep. These factors may change over time, so schedule an annual analysis of excluded accounts. The third one is compare intercompany loan rates to market rates. If the company uses non-market interest rates when calculating intercompany charges, it may run afoul if transfer pricing rules in some stock jurisdictions thus create a tracking procedure to periodically compare market rates to the intercompany loan rates. The fourth one, verify the allocation of interest income to subsidiaries. Depending on the circumstances, it may be necessary to allocate interest earned back to the subsidiaries. If so, verify that the calculation is consistently applied across all subsidiaries. And the fifth one, verify the calculation of intercompany loan balances. A company using fiscal sweeping may need to record intercompany loan balances to reflect the shifts in the shift in cash to the corporate consolidation account. If so, have the internal audit staff periodically verify the calculation of these balances. This review can impact the amount of interest expense or income allocated to subsidiaries.
Oh, tabla. Tabla na. Tabla na.
Okay, 3 questions. And this is the final question. And question number 7, yes. Question number 7. It is one of the concentration. Wait. It is one of the concentration policies wherein the company shall engage in cash concentration with a physical sweeping strategy. Letter A, small company policy. Letter B, large company policy. Again, small company policy. And D, large company policy. Yes? The answer is correct.
Oh my God!
Cash concentration policies. There is one key policy required for cash concentration, which is all cash concentration activities shall be managed by the corporate Treasury Department. This policy clearly places responsibility for cash concentration in the hands of the corporate Treasury Department because this can be a surprisingly important policy in a larger firm where divisional managers may attempt to retain control over their bank accounts. Strategies for both small and large companies are noted in the following 2 policies. The first policy is small company policy. Small company policy. The company shall engage in a cash concentration with a fiscal sweeping strategy. All subsidiary accounts shall be designated as zero balance and shall sweep into a concentration account, which in turn shall also be used as a central disbursement account. The second one is large company policy. The company shall engage in cash concentration with a cross-currency notional pooling strategy. All subsidiaries are restricted to accounts with a bank designated by the treasurer in areas where notional pooling is not available. The treasurer may opt for physical sweeping or no sweeping if it is not cost effective. SB! Round of applause for Team SB.
Round 3. Fight!
Hello everyone, let's proceed to the next level. But before that, let's introduce first the different teams. First, the team led.
For the goal, Sir Glenn!
SB team, are you ready?
SB, born ready.
And now let's check their buzzer. SB.
Beep!
Sir Glenn.
Sir Glenn!
And now let's proceed to our first question. Number 1 question. It can reduce the need for short-term borrowing or liquidation of long-term investment before maturity in the event of cash shortfall and can identify idle funds and determine whether those funds could be invested during that idle time frame. A. Near-term cash flows. B. Cash forecasting. C. Medium-term cash flows. Again, A. Near-term cash flows. B. Cash forecasting. C. Medium-term cash flows.
Sir Glenn, let's go.
So let's
Sir Glenn.
hands on your chest, please. 1, 2, 3. So SB 19.
9-10.
B. Cash forecasting. D. Cash forecasting.
Sorry, Sir Glenn, but Team SB is correct. 1 point.
Hello everyone, I am J. Kalmabad and I'm going to discuss about the cash forecasting. Forecasting. Forecasting is a technique that uses historical data as inputs to make informed estimates that are predictive in determining the direction of future trends. Businesses utilize forecasting to determine how to allocate their budgets or plan for anticipated expenses for an upcoming period of time. For the cash forecasting, it can reduce the need for short-term borrowing or liquidation of long-term investment before the maturity in the event of cash shortfall, and can identify idle funds and determine whether those funds could be invested during that idle time frame. There are two types of cash flow: the near-term cash flows and the medium-term cash flows. The near-term cash flows are highly predictable or typically covering a 1-month period, and medium-term cash flows are largely based on revenues that have not yet occurred and supplier invoices that have not yet arrived.
Next question. It is useful when a company deals with large amount of foreign currency for their importation of payments requirement. A. Medium-term cash forecasting. B. Long-term cash forecast. C. Foreign currency cash forecast. D. Short-term cash forecast. Again, letter A. Medium-term cash forecast. Letter B, long-term cash forecast. Letter C, foreign currency cash forecast. Letter D, short-term cash forecast. Team SB.
C. Foreign currency cash.
Sorry again. Sorry, Glenn. But SB is correct.
What is foreign currency cash forecast? It is useful when a company deals with a large amount of foreign currency for their importation payment requirement. Cash forecasting time horizons. Short-term cash forecast is a predictive model that attempts to estimate cash inflows and outflows over a period that is typically less than 12 months. Often, short-term cash flows forecasts are for even shorter periods, depending on the importance of maintaining sufficient cash balances. For medium-term cash forecast, it is used to estimate net cash positions for periods from 1 month to 1 year, and this seeks to establish overall averages rather than detailed daily positions, and gives the treasurer a feel for the overall funding or investment patterns expected over the year. For the long-term cash forecast, these are mainly generated for a period of 2 to 5 years and help to provide a rough picture of a company's future financing needs and investable surplus. Long-term cash forecast assists in the planning of capital projects as well as the raising of long-term financing.
Number 3 question. What is the reporting structure and logic that produces a cash flow forecast? Again. What is reporting structure and logic that produces a cash flow forecast?
A. Cash forecasting model. B. Information sources for cash forecast. C. Measuring cash flow forecast accuracy. Again, A. Cash forecasting model. B. Information
Sources for the cash forecast. C. Measuring cash forecast accuracy.
go.
Sir Glenn.
Okay, Sir Glenn, what's your answer?
B.
Beep.
Sorry, but you're wrong, Glenn, but SB had a chance.
Okay, SB.
A. Cash forecasting model.
You got correct answer. Okay, last ano?
Yes, that's correct. Cash forecasting model is the reporting structure and logic that produces a cash forecast. Here you can see an example of cash forecasting model. For the information sources for the cash forecast, the cash manager will need to identify sources of information for the forecast. This may be last year's actual cash flow sales projection, purchases projection, accounts payable and receivable, data investment plans or capital budgeting including plans for acquisitions or divestments. Identifying the information sources that are available as input to the cash flow forecast can help determine the methodology used to build the forecast. Typically, short-term cash flows forecasts are built using one or a combination of 3 different methods. A receipt and disbursement methodology, sometimes referred to as a working capital approach, a bank data approach, or a business intelligence or statistical or modeling approach. Measuring cash forecast. Before attempting to measure forecast accuracy, there are a number of key items to consider, such as where will you source actual cash flows data and what cash flows metric are you measuring for accuracy. All accuracy measurement is based on an actual versus forecast calculation. This calculation involves comparing a forecast cash position or flow to the actual cash position or flow when it is known. In short, the accuracy of the cash forecast requires great attention to process to provide its source data. Measuring cash forecast. Before attempting to measure forecast accuracy, there are a number of key items to consider, such as where will you source actual cash flow data and what cash flow metric are you measuring for accuracy. All accuracy measurement is based on an actual versus forecast calculation. This calculation involves comparing a forecast cash position or flow to the actual cash flow position or flow when it is known. In short, the accuracy of the cash forecast requires great attention to process that provide source data. Forecasted results must be regularly compared to actual results to determine what causes the error and then correct them.
Next question. This refers to automating the process in its entirely or may refer to the automation of the constituent parts of this process. Again, this refers to automating the process in its entirety or may refer to the automation of the constituent parts of this process.
A. Bullwhip effect. B. Business cycling forecasting. C. Cash forecasting automation. Again, A. Bullwhip effect. B. Business cycling forecasting. C. Cash forecasting automation. Go!
Sir Glenn.
Beep!
Sir Glenn.
A.
answer.
Bullwhip.
No.
Wrong!
C.
C.
What's C?
Cash.
Cash forecasting evaluation.
No, cash.
Forecasting.
Evaluation.
Auto.
Automation.
Automation.
SB got correct answer.
Okay, now
Bullwhip effect. It estimates of consumer and supplier payments are frequently correct. However, inventory forecasts might be confusing. Inventory levels fluctuate so much that precise payables forecasts are difficult. The bullwhip effect is a major inventory forecasting headache. When a corporation runs out of materials or capacity, it informs client that they are being allocated. Customers immediately increase their order quantities to lock in a greater proportion of the company's output over a longer time horizon, forcing the companies to increase its capacity to meet the unexpected demand. Once the company starts meeting the larger orders and eliminates its shipment allocations, customer rather shrink their planning horizon, find they have enough inventory for their immediate needs to resend most outstanding or pending orders. The corporation was bullwhip. As payables rise and fall, the cash estimates have been bullwhip. So how to avoid this? The treasurer should watch the abrupt order increases after client order allocation notice. If so, the treasurer and material manager should estimate actual order volumes using each customer historical order volumes adjusted for seasonality. Until the allocation notice is revoked and order volumes return to normal, inventory planning should use historical values rather than incremental orders. Productive planning will improve cash forecasts and prevent the bullwhip effect from affecting inventories and production.
number 5 question. What's your score?
0.
What's your score?
4.
Let's go
Bawi,
team.
bawi,
Last question na lang.
The next question. Number 5. A business cycle forecasting, which refers to a management tool that presents financial information, it's either revenue or expenses, based on actual and budgeted or projected amounts within the current fiscal year. Letter A. Subscribe to a forecasting service. Letter B. Develop an in-house forecasting model. And letter C. Report on published forecast. Again, letter A. Subscribe to a forecasting service. Letter B. Develop an in-house forecasting model. And letter C. Report on published forecast. Go.
B.
Team SB.
C. Report on public forecast.
Correct answer.
Business cycle forecasting is the process of developing hypotheses on the course that the business cycle will take in the years to come. The cash forecasting period is generally quite short, anywhere from 1 to 6 months. The level of accuracy of this forecast declines markedly if it projects multiple months into the future. However, it is possible to incorporate longer-range business cycle forecasting into the cash forecast to introduce a higher degree of accuracy into the more distant part of cash forecast. Here are some possible actions to take to obtain, analyze, and report on the business cycle forecast. So in business cycle forecasting, they are listed in ascending order of difficulty. The first one is report publish forecast. Is a management tool that compares current fiscal year revenue and expense to budgeted amounts. Forecasting helps fiscal officer and leaders predict events and trends. So, it is most major business magazine forecast in the economy. The information is free, accurate for entire economy, and prepared by experienced forecasters. Each company operates in a smaller industry within national economy, therefore its many business cycle may not match those of national economy. Thus, the supply information may only be broadly applicable to a company's circumstances. And the second one, subscribe to a forecasting service. So it is estimate a company's recurrent revenue over a given time frame. So, a forecasting firm can charge a company 5 to 6 figure for industry-specific reports. This works well for groups without resources to obtain synthesis and analysis economic data. Some industries are too tiny for specialist forecasting services, or the fee is too exorbitant for the information gained. The third one is develop an in-house forecasting model. Are just one of the many instruments that companies use to make predictions about the future, including those concerning sales, supply and demand, customer behavior, and other topics. So, in-house forecasting is unnecessary when a company wants to run its own model or there are no forecasting services accessible. Minimalist to comprehensive efforts offer greater results. First, discover the right data, then choose a fast, reliable data gathering process. Find a way to forecast from the data. To clarify any assumptions changes, this forecast should provide the underlying assumption and facts. Finally, the result should be compared to actual data and the forecasting approach adjusted accordingly. If a good forecasting system is employed, this method can be time-consuming but effective. Example of business cycle forecasting. The Sport Rack firm treasurer choose the last forecasting option. Sport Rack, a small niche market, makes a sales rack for skis, snowboards, bicycle, and kayaks that can be mounted on most cars. The treasurer wants a forecasting system to estimate sales variation for management. She divides the market into skis, snowboards, bicycle, and kayaks. Based on historical data, 25% of ski buyers, 35% of snowboard buyers, 75% of bicycle buyers, and 30% of kayak buyers will buy a car top rack system to carry their new gear. This transaction typically took 6 months from sports equipment to sport racks. The treasurer gets quarterly sports equipment sales statistic from industry trade organization. Given the lag period before consumer buy car top rack, she may gather the data that predicts rack sales and present it to the management 3 months before they materialize. She concludes that these facts are useful. Next, the sport rack industry trade group can provide the company's sport rack market shares, but it at least a year old. She believes that this information accurate given industry sales steadiness. Therefore, the analysis of corporation should increase snowboard sport rack manufacturing immediately by comparing this data to its sales projection. The example was very narrow niche market, but it shows that a small amount of forecasting work can deliver tremendous result. Most firms have multiple other underlying indication that should be integrated into forecasting model, but managers must weigh the cost of tracking this data against the advantage of more accurate results to reach a good cost-benefit compromises. Only long-term cash flow forecasts benefit from business cycle forecasting. For longer cash forecasts, such information is useful.
Last na number 6.
It is useful to lock the spreadsheet.
Okay, it is useful
Lock.
to lock the spreadsheet. Letter A, obtain approval. Letter B, retain a copy. Letter C, match forecast against standard checklist. And letter D, match latest forecast against preceding forecasts.
Sir Glenn,
Sir Glenn.
A.
ED, you got the wrong answer.
That's B,
Yes,
you got.
B. Any answer?
B. B.
What's B?
Moya.
Voltaire.
Pizza. B.
Retain.
Retain ka copy.
You got the correct answer.
Sorry, sorry, Sir Glenn. You got 0.
Cash forecasting controls. It calculates the anticipated flow of cash into and out of your company across all departments and over a specified period of time using the standard deviation method. Using the previous day's forecast as a template, the daily cash forecast is normally prepared fast with minor updates. From scratch forecasts increase error risks. Infrequent cash forecasters are more likely to make mistakes. These traits allowed the treasurer to require fewer controls for daily cash predictions and for less frequent ones. If a forecast is given every day, then the treasurer should concentrate primarily the incremental changes that occur in a forecast daily. This is attainable through utilization of two controls listed below. First one is investigate significant variances from preceding day's forecast. It is the forecast for the current day as well as the forecast for the day before it, as are presented below in a side-by-side comparison. If there are substantial alteration, the preparer is responsible for ensuring that the alteration are justifiable. The second one is obtain the approval of knowledgeable person. Another individual should briefly evaluate initial and keep the forecast. Someone with recent cash forecasting experience may be a better evaluator than the preparer boss. The collection payables, payroll, and capital expenditures manager could assess the prediction. If a forecast is generated less frequently, the control should include the preceding two controls with some modification, as well as additional controls. There are match latest forecast against preceding forecast, and the second is match forecast against standard forecast is checklist, and the third is obtain approvals, and the fourth is retain a copy. So match latest forecast against preceding forecast is it is helpful to compare the new forecast to the new ones that came before it. In particular, the predicted ending cash balances for each time to the same time period in the earlier forecast. If there are big differences in the ending balance for a certain time as it gets closer to the present, the cash forecast model probably needs to be changed for times farther in the future, And the second one, match forecast again to standard forecast, is checklist. When a forecast is made only occasionally, there is a greater chance that some parts of the forecast will be left out by mistake. A missing item is hard to spot, so a reviewer should compare the forecast to a standard list of what should be in the forecast. This control is more helpful when looking a forecast made by a new employee who doesn't know how the company does business. And the third one is obtain approval. It is the less often a forecast is made or more approvals it needs because the business will use it for a longer time. This could mean that all the people who help make the forecast, like managers and collections, payables, payroll, and capital expenditures, need to look it again. At least one person who knows a lot about the company's cash flow should look over the forecast, sign it, and keep a copy. And the fourth one is retain a copy. The best way to check if a cash forecast is accurate is to compare it to a forecast from previous periods. So a copy of every forecast of the if the forecast is put together on a spreadsheet, save each forecast on a separate tab and write the date of the forecast on each tab. You might also to lock the spreadsheet so that the older version don't get changed by accident. So, if the forecast is made on a computer spreadsheet, each formula is the most recent cash forecast should be checked. Any changes to the department's year-end procedures book should include a note that the forecast model could have made a mistake during the year that means the cash forecast is no longer correct. The person who makes the cash forecast shouldn't do this review of the formula. This formula review doesn't be done by someone who knows a lot about spreadsheet and how they work. Instead, use someone who doesn't use spreadsheet. This third sheet will be more about the cash forecast. The party is likely to work through all the formulas carefully and assume that it works right.
So now let's congratulate the SB team. Yay!
Final round. Fight!
Let's begin for the last level. Team Glenn, are you ready?
For the goal, Sir Glendon, let's go!
How about you, Team Foggy?
Yes, we are!
Okay, so now let's proceed to the first question. Oh, before that, let's try your buzzer. First, Team Foggy.
Team Glendon.
Sir Glendon!
Okay, so for the first question, this is a phase in a business world in transferring funds and settlements with the movement of funds between parties. Again, this is a phase in a business world in a transferring funds and settlement with the movement of funds between parties.
A. Clearing. B. Settlement. C. Clearing and settlement system. Again. A. Clearing. B. Settlement. C. Clearing and settlement system.
Okay, Team Foggy.
Settlement. B.
Last chance. Team Glenn. 1, 2.
Clearing and settlement system.
The right answer is clearing. Okay, Zero.
Clearing. It is a phase in a business world in transferring funds and settlement with the movement of funds between parties. It is all step involved in transferring fund ownership from one party to another except for the final step, which is settlements. Settlement, it is the process of shifting funds from the account of the payer to the account of payee. It involves the finalization of payment so that a new party takes possession of transferred funds. So basically, the general concept of clearing and settlements is for the banks of the paying party, which is the payer, and the receiving party, which is the beneficiary, to exchange informations regarding monetary transfers. It resulting in the transfers of funds between the two banks. The banks in return debit the account of the payer and credit the account of the beneficiary. Given the massive volume of such transaction, formal clearing and settlement systems have been installed to streamline the process. So there are two settlement types, which is the gross basis and the net basis. Gross basis, it is a type of clearing settlement where each bank pays the total amount owed. And the payments are handled or more likely to have requirements for immediate execution where payments instructions are processed separately for each individual transaction. Also, the cost of gross settlement transaction is high. So individual transactions running through this system tend to involve larger amount of funds or very time sensitive. The next one is the net basis. It is a type of settlements where the large number of transactions are accumulated and offset each other with only the net differential being transferred between banks. The payments handled usually wait until the end of the day, when all transactions between the two banks are summarized and offset against each other by a clearing institution. The clearing institution then sends the net transfer information to the settlement institution, which execute the transfer of funds between banks. Also, the cost of net settlement transaction is low, so lower value transactions are usually settled through this system. Trivia: banks prefer to use net settlement system because payment processed through them required greatly reduced fund transfer and then therefore considerable less liquidity than gross settlement system.
So, number 2. Each clearing and settlement system is primarily designed to handle a certain type of transaction. What type of transaction that must be executed immediately? Again, each clearing and settlement system is primarily designed to handle a certain type of transaction. What type of transaction that must be executed immediately?
A. High value payment. B. Low value payment. Again, A. High value payment. B. Low value payment. Go!
Team Pogi.
High value payment.
That is correct.
Dog me yes! Dog me out.
Each clearing and settlement system is primarily designed to handle a certain type of transaction. One such type is the high value payment, which must be executed immediately. Because of the time constraint, high value payment cannot wait for end of day netting and so are settled on a gross basis with an immediate cash transfer between banks. The another payment type is the low value payment, which does not require immediate execution and tends to be for smaller account. Because of the reduced need for immediate execution, these payments are handled through a net settlement system.
1, 2, 3, go. Number 3. It is a gross settlement system owned and operated by the BSP. Again, it is a gross settlement system owned and operated by the BSP.
A. Fedwire system. B. Fairpass. C. Clearinghouse Interbank Payment System. A. Fedwire system. B. Fairpass. C. Clearinghouse Interbank Payment System. Go!
Sir Gandon!
Sir Glenn.
A.
And
B. Basta B.
what is B?
Bilpas.
That is correct.
So the right answer is Philfast. Because Fedwire system, it is a gross settlement system owned and operated by U.S. Federal Reserve, while CHIPS is a net settlement system that is operated in clearinghouse in New York, which in turn is owned by a large of banks or group of banks. So here in our end, we have Philippine Payment and Settlement System or known as PhilFast, which is owned and operated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. It process and settle interbank high-value payment transaction through the demand deposit accounts of the bank maintained with the BSP. Banks and non-banks with quasi-banking functions under the BSP supervision are granted access to PhilFast to facilitate electronic interbank payments among themselves.
Fourth question. This system is designed for high-value payments and can also transmit remittance information along with payment instructions. Again, this system is designed for high-value payments and can also transmit remittance information along with payment instructions.
A. Check clearing. B. Clearinghouse Interbank Payment System or known as CHIPS. C. MICR. Again, check clearing. B. CHIPS or C. MICR. Go!
Delete.
Team Pogi.
Letter B. Chips.
That is correct.
Clearinghouse Interbank Payment System or CHIPS. It is a net settlement system that is operated by the clearinghouse in New York, which is owned by a group of banks. It settles primarily foreign exchange and euro-dollar trades with total daily volume exceeding of $1 trillion. CHIPS accumulate payment instruction throughout the day and then calculates the net payment to be paid by each bank in the system. There is some risk for a bank using CHIPS because it is not being paid until the end of the day but could make funds available to its customer prior to the end of the day. If a bank owing it were to fail, the bank would then have no means of recovering the funds already paid to its customers. To control this risk, the bank imposed intraday credit limits on their transaction with each other. Check clearing. It is an approach when a company issues a check payment and the payee deposits it with his bank. So how? The payment amount stated on the check when deposited is not immediately withdrawable since the payee bank has not yet received the funds from the payer's bank. Instead, the payee's bank makes a notation in their system the amount deposited in the payee's account and sets a date by which the funds are available for use by the payee, known as the body date. To date, checks are currently having a one-day delay or one-day float before funds are ready for withdrawal by the payee. A check issued from a payer to a beneficiary can be cleared and settled through one of the several routings that we will be discussed later. Magnetic Ink Character Recognition or MICR, used by the payee's bank to scan and makes it easier for the payer's bank for reimbursement. There are three numbers in MICR line composed of check number, bank routing number, and the account number that can be found at the bottom of each check. The MICR number includes the magnetic ink character recognition line printed using technology that allows specific computers to read and process the written information. MICR also used to verify the legitimacy or originality of checks and other paper documents to avoid fraud and to enhance security.
Okay, question. In check clearing, what routings in which a check is drawn may be the same bank used by the beneficiary? Again, in check clearing, what routings on which a check is drawn may be the same bank used by the beneficiary?
A. Correspondent bank settlement. B. Electronic check presentment. C. Same bank settlement. D. Check clearing institution. Again, it's A. Correspondent bank settlement. B. Electronic check presentment. C. Same bank settlement. D. Check clearing institution. Go!
Repeat. B. Electronic bank settlement.
And
Yung. Sir Glendo. Letter D. Letter D.
And the right answer is same bank settlement.
Routings of check clearing. First is same bank settlement. The bank on which a check is drawn may be the same bank used by the beneficiary. If so, the bank simply makes a book entry to shift the in-house funds from the account of the payer to the account of the beneficiary. Second is correspondent bank settlement. A company may receive a check from an entity located outside of its country. If so, the company's bank sent the check to our correspondent bank in the originating country. Clearing and settlement occurs in the country, and then the correspondent bank uses an electronic transfer to shift the funds back to the beneficiary's bank. Third is the check clearing institution. Checks are physically processed through the Federal Reserve System, or Fed. It is a central bank of the U.S. to provide the nation with a safer, more flexible, and more stable monetary and financial system. The process flow is for the beneficiary or the check recipient to send the check to its bank, which in turn sends the check to the check clearing institution or the CCI, which is frequently the Fed. The CCI aggregates the information on all checks received and sends a payment instruction to the Fed. The Fed then debits the account of the payer's bank at the Fed and credits the account of the beneficiary's bank at the Fed. Meanwhile, the CCI has notified the banks of both the payer and beneficiary, who debit the payer's bank account and credit the beneficiary's account respectively. Last is electronic check presentment. Either the recipient of a check or its bank can scan a check to create an electronic image and then send the image to the CCI. Since no transport of actual check occurs, the clearing process can be several days quicker than traditional paper check clearing.
Next question. Who approved the adoption of the electronic clearing of checks? Again, who approved the adoption of the electronic clearing of checks?
A. Monetary Board. B. Check clearing process flow. Again, A. Monetary Board. B. Check clearing process flow. Team Poggy.
Monetary board.
That is correct.
The Monetary Board, or MB, has approved the adoption of the electronic clearing of checks, which shall implement beginning of January 20, 2017. As BSP designated exclusive provider of electronic check clearing services, the Philippine Clearing House Corporation, or PCHC, shall implement the clearing of checks via electronic presentment through its check image clearing system, or CICS. Using the PCHC's CICS, only the digital image of checks and their electronic payment information are needed to transmit to the paying bank. The previous clearing, the physical delivery of checks. The new check clearing process expects to speed up the crediting of funds to depositors' accounts from the 3 to 5 banking days to only 1 banking day. The BSP recognizes the importance of check clearing to the domestic payment system. Thus, under a memorandum of agreement between BSP and PCHC, bank will take a more active role in supervising the country's check by reviewing PCHC regulation as well as examining PCHC arrangement, processes, and present systems for check clearing. To ensure the smooth implementation of this new process, the BSP enjoins banks and the preparations for electronic check clearing actively. The BSP is pursuing reforms to enhance the efficiency of the payment system, as this is the critical to the promotion of the country's financial stability. Check clearing process flow. The concept of the clearing process from depositing check payment or float to PCHC, or debit payer's account, to availability of the funds for the check deposited. For the electronic check process flow, we have the payment check. First, the payer or the person who will pay will proceed to the second, the payee, or the person who will receive the payment. Then deposit check, wherein payee's bank will proceed to PCHC, or the Philippine House Clearing Corporation, for the clearing of checks via electronic, then bank debits payer's account, which is the payer's bank, then back to the payer and proceed to the BSP, and lastly to the payers and the payer's bank.
So the winner is Team Poggy. Yay!
Thank you for watching our video. Please watch it again.
Don't forget to like,
Subscribe
subscribe.
and share. But please do not dislike.